Now we are into the lecture number 12, the volt ampere characteristics. And yesterday we were discussing about the current components in the PN junction. Now there are two parts to that derivation. One is the forward biased, and second one is the reverse saturation current. So we'll complete that part, a reverse saturation current for a PN junction diode, then followed with the volt ampere characteristic, some numericals, and one more topic, the band structure of an open circuited PN junction. This actually we had covered in the lecture number 9, but still I'll give the different perspective today of that, if the time permits. Fine. We had derived one equation based on this diagram. So we are having a PN junction, fine, and this is P block, here this is N block, and this is connected to the positive end of the battery, and the negative end is connected to the N terminal. Now this is what is called as forward biasing. Fine. Now what happens in case of forward biasing? The holes are the majority charge carriers here. Here the electrons are the majority charge carriers. Now this positive sign on account of this positive end, all the holes will be repelled, and on account of this negative terminal, all the electrons will be repelled. So they will be pushed through towards this junction, and then this barrier potential or the junction width will keep on decreasing. Fine. Now, as we all know, in semiconductors, the current is due to both holes as well as electrons, whereas in this wire, external wire, the current is always due to electrons. Fine. Now, when we apply a forward bias to this diode, then the holes, which are the majority charge carriers, fine, are injected into the N side. Now, due to the concentration gradient, due to the concentration gradient, seems to be a complex term, but concentration gradient meaning uneven population. Here, the population of holes is more, and here it is scarce, meaning very less. So there's a tendency for these holes to move from highly populated region to less populated region. Fine. And similarly, the electrons, which are majority charge carriers here, they are densely populated. Fine. They will tend to move in this direction towards the P region. Now, here, if I say, look here, the number of electrons are more. Fine. As these electrons are pushed into the P region, what will happen is that these injected carriers, fine. Now, what are injected carriers? For example, these electrons, when they are moving into this direction towards the junction into the P region, here when they come over here, they refer to as injected carriers. So injected carriers can be holes or it can be electrons. If holes are moving here in this direction, they are referred to as injected holes. Okay. Now, if you carefully look here, the concentration, the number, the volume, or the number of electrons coming into this region, P region, will keep on decreasing with respect to distance from the origin. Fine. Now, why it will so happen? This electron, they are free carriers here. Okay. When they move into the P region, the recombination of hole and electron is going to take place. So if I draw the concentration, and here this is the junction. Now, the concentration of electrons are maximum here. Right? Let me draw the physical boundary. The concentration of electron, that means if the concentration of electrons is more, definitely the moment of charge will be higher, and naturally the current will be on the higher side. So if I mark this axis as the current, okay, due to this charge carriers high number, the number of electrons will contribute more amount of current. Fine. Now, holes are entering into the P region. So at this point, there will be maximum. Fine. As it goes down, the number of holes will be reducing because they will start interacting or recombining with the electrons. So as I go towards the junction, the contribution of this current due to the electrons will go on decreasing. Why? Because it is recombining with the holes which are entering from this side. Fine. Now I can write this as current due to electrons in the n region. Fine. And then as the statement that what we have made, number of these injected carriers will decrease exponentially with distance from the junction. So if I move from, this is the junction, okay, if I move from this end, fine, this number of charge carriers will keep on decreasing, okay, exponentially it will start to decrease. So this is what the current is falling down. Why the current is falling down? Because the number of charge carriers, that is electrons, are keep on decreasing if I move from this end towards the junction into the p region. Here this part of the current component can be labeled as I due to the electrons in the p region. Fine, let me change the color. Let us take it as yellow. Similarly here, the current due to the hole will be maximum at this point, fine, because the concentration of holes are more. But then as we go towards the junction, now what will happen, some of this electron might have entered in this region, so they will recombine with the holes, and number of electrons and holes due to this recombination, the free carriers will reduce. So the concentration of holes will reduce. In turn, the current contribution by this hole will naturally decrease. So it will decrease. Fine. So it is decreasing, and then when it enters into the n region, here the number of electrons are very in large numbers. So the moment the hole enters here, the one of the electron will try to jump into the hole. So the recombination of hole and electron is going to take place. So effective number of holes in this region will keep on decreasing, and naturally the current will start to drop. I hope this is clear. These are the current components. I can write here the current components in a PN junction. See, the graph, tells you so many things. The graphs and the equations, they're the most important things. Right? I can name this as the current due to the holes in the P region, and here I can write this as the current due to the holes in the N region. So we are having 4 current components here. Right? Collectively, in totality, if I add the current, the 2 components, this plus this, it will be total I. So the total current in the circuit is going to remain the same. Fine. So we can write this we had seen yesterday, Pn of O equals to Pno into e raised to V by Vt. What is Pn of O? O reflects the origin, that is junction x equal to 0 in bracket. Fine. Now the concentration of holes in the N region. So right at this point. So this is the value. Fine. This yellow intersection with the current axis. Now, what will be the concentration of holes right at the junction, that is x equal to 0 in the N region? So this is the holes in the N region right at the junction will be equal to Pno into e raised to V by Vt. Now this is referred to as law of junction. So therefore the total concentration of holes in N region, it varies with applied voltage. Fine. So as I always mention, the graphs tells you so many things. Similarly, the equation. If I look at this equation, Pno is a constant value. Fine. Pno is the thermal equilibrium. This Pno is a constant value. So Pn of O, that is the concentration of holes in the N region right at the junction. This is junction, right? Right at the junction is purely a function of V. V is what? Applied voltage. Vt is constant. It is 26 millivolts, which is equals to kT by E. This we have derived at room temperature of 300 degree Kelvin. So Pn of O is directly related to the function of Pn. It is exponential e raised to V. That means what? If I apply the pressure, okay, different way to understand this concept. V is what? The voltage. Fine, voltage is what? A kind of a pressure which is applied for charges to flow. If I am I'm having a higher voltage, I'm going to apply more pressure. So the more the pressure, this will force the holes to move more into this N region. Similarly, the Pn of number of holes in the N region will depend upon how much voltage we are applying. Fine. Now, yesterday we had derived the equation for I. Let me write that equation. This current through the diode is equal to I naught e raised to V by Vt minus of 1. This is the all important equation, which is also referred to as diode current equation, meaning the current through the diode is given by this expression where I naught is a constant to certain extent. So it is what? A into E diffusion coefficient for holes dH PNO, the concentration of holes in the N region at equilibrium, divided by LH. And what was LH? It was the diffusion length for holes. Diffusion length for holes. And how do we define the diffusion length? If you recollect, when if I supply some kind of energy, then the electrons from the valence band, they leave out the parent atom, and on acquiring of higher energy, they will move into the higher energy states. In simple words, in the valence band, they will leave behind a hole, and this electron will go into the conduction band, and then they will conduct. Now, after certain time, this electron will give out the energy, and they will recombine with the hole. So this the charge carrier, the electrons will never remain free as an electron, because it's like a give and take process. The electron, the moment it finds the hole, it will jump into that hole. Again, it will acquire some energy. It will move ahead. So that the difference between the generation of electron and hole pair and the recombination of electron and hole is it will take certain amount of time, okay, before recombining. And the distance traveled by this free electron due to the generation before it recombines with the hole, this distance is referred to as diffusion length. In simple words, I'm having a hole and an electron, okay. Now, on account of some energy, this electron, then after some time, if there is a vacancy here, meaning hole, then this hole will jump into that particular vacancy. Now, this distance is the diffusion or diffusion length. It may also be defined as the average distance covered by an excess charge carrier during its lifetime. So when we say lifetime, it is pertaining to a time. So it has its own lifetime. Okay. So this time will take up certain physical distance, and that is the diffusion length. So similarly, we are going to have here, this is only on account of holes. It will have one more term, A, area of cross section charge on electron, the diffusion length for electron, and NPO. We'll solve one problem, you'll understand this concept, and LE, the diffusion length for electrons. So this is quite a big term, I naught. Fine. And normally in problem solving, right from the basic, you might have studied a diode equation. We just memorize this equation. But how we arrive at this equation is from this figure, that what we have covered yesterday in the class. Fine. Now this is all about the forward current. Now let us understand the reverse saturation current. Now we have this all important diode current equation I equals to I naught e raised to V by Vt minus of 1. This V is the applied voltage. This is the thermal equivalent of voltage, equivalent of voltage given by kT by E, which is T upon 11,600, and at 300 degree Kelvin, this value is, if I substitute T equals to 300, what I get is 0.026 volt or 26 millivolts. So it's a constant value. Fine. I naught, if I look at this expression, almost all these values are constant for a given material. So what I can conclude from here, the current passing through the diode is directly related to the applied voltage. Fine, because E raised to V. Now, so in all this discussion so far, we have considered a positive value of V, fine, plus V. Okay, so here I can write NPO Ni square by Na, acceptor ion concentration, donor ion concentration, which normally is specified in the problem or numerical. Now, donor atoms, I write simply donor atoms and acceptor atoms. We had, if I substitute PNO is equal to Ni square by Nd and NPO as Ni square by Na in this equation of I naught. Now here, okay, if I substitute the PNO value and NPO value from the mass section law, see, in the forward, why are we considering the minority charge carriers? The forward current is due to the majority charge carriers, fine, and the reverse current is due to the minority charge carriers. If you recollect, if I apply the reverse bias, what will happen? All these holes, see, uh, reverse saturation current. If I'm having P and N, fine. If I apply negative voltage to the P terminal and positive end of the battery to the N region, what will happen? All these electrons over here, which are the majority charge carriers, will be attracted towards the positive terminal, and all these holes, which are the majority charge carriers, will be attracted towards the negative region. Fine. In bargain, what will happen? All these charge carriers will be attracted in the opposite ends. So this depletion region will keep on increasing. So there won't be charge carriers in this region. So this depletion region depends upon the amount of reverse bias that we are applying. But then we also said, in case of n-type region, there are minority charge carriers, and that will be holes. Here, the minority charge carriers in case of p-type material will be electrons. Fine. Now, what will be the action of this hole and electron? Say these are the hole, which are the minority charge carriers, and these are the electrons, fine, which are minority. I hope you know what is majority and what is minority charge carriers. Now, this minority electrons will get attracted towards the positive end, and this hole will attracted towards the negative end. Fine. And who is going to support them? The electric field that is being generated here. I hope this is clear. Current is due to majority charge carriers and minority charge carriers. Majority charge carriers are on account of doping profile, and the minority charge carriers are on account of the thermal agitation and so on. Clear? So if I substitute this PNO and NPO in this equation here, this equation for I naught, what we get is I naught equals to AE dH by whole ND plus DE LE NA NI square. So this will be the modification in the equation. So I hope this is clear to all. So we are having an equation I equals to I naught e raised to v by n vt. I'll explain what is this eta minus of 1. Fine. Now, this is the current flowing through the PN diode. Current flowing through PN diode. Now, the positive value of I means the current flowing from the P region to N region. So positive value of I means the current is flowing from the P region to N region. These are the ohmic contacts. The diode is forward biased. The diode is said to be forward biased if V is positive. Fine. That is, P side is connected to the positive terminal and N is connected to the negative terminal. Fine. Forward bias. When the applied voltage V is positive, when the applied voltage V is positive, and if it is several times Vt, and it is actually because Vt is 26 millivolt, and we work this diode in the range of 1 to say 20 volts. Now this value 1 to 20 volts is very much great as compared to 26 millivolt. So in that case, this parenthesis can be neglected, and accordingly, except for a small range in the neighborhood of the origin. If you look here, if you look here in the beginning, then the current increases exponentially from here on. So up to the value of Vt, this equation, due to this equation, you see the current is limited, and then at this point of time, the barrier potential is overcome. How much is the barrier potential? For germanium it is 0.3 and for silicon it is 0.7. This is what is called a knee voltage. It is slightly less. In case of silicon it is 0.6. In case of germanium it is 0.2. How do we find this value 0.3, 0.7? We have to just extend this line. Okay, this intersection point will give me the voltages 0.3 and 0.7 for germanium, silicon, and so on. Now this is the forward characteristics. This is also referred to as inverse square law because of this exponential equation. When the diode is reverse biased, so forward bias, P is connected to positive, N is connected to negative, and in case of reverse biased, we have P connected to the negative end of the battery, N connected to the positive end of the battery. And V, again V, the applied voltage, this is the applied voltage. If this voltage is several times Vt, fine, in magnitude, then I is equal to minus of I naught. This reverse current is therefore constant, independent of applied reverse bias. And then at certain voltage, it undergoes a breakdown. So this is just the volt ampere characteristics. Now, why are we studying this? Because now we need to understand what will be the effect of temperature. This is a prerequisite which you have already studied. Now, why are we revising this? The point is, what is the temperature effect on this plot? Fine. Now, we simply cannot interchange this axis. On the x-axis we are having voltage, and on y-axis we're having plotting the current component. What it means, the current through the diode depends upon the applied voltage. Fine, that is the meaning of it. We simply cannot interchange the two. If you recollect the experiment, this is the experimental setup. When I draw this symbol, this is for single cell. When I draw this, it is a voltage and a fixed value. Fine. And when I put an arrow across it, it becomes a variable power supply, variable voltage. Fine. In the laboratory setup, we have 0 to 30 volts. So I can vary right from 0 to 30 volts. Then I need to connect a diode in series, and I have to measure the voltage across the diode and the current passing through it. Fine. And to limit the current through the circuit, I have to connect a load resistance of 1K. If I don't connect this load resistance, current I passing through the circuit will be V by R. If I don't have a resistor here, heavy amount of current, if the resistance is low, current will be on a higher side, and that current can damage the device under test. Fine. The reason RL is connected here in any circuit you'll find is to limit the current. And typically this RL is not appearing in this equation. Fine. So it is independent of it. Now this RL is typically taken as 1 kilo ohms. Now why are we taking it as 1 kilo ohms? For a simple reason. If I take R as 1 kilo ohms in a denominator, I can easily calculate the current in terms of milliamperes. But if I take it as say 3.3 kilo ohms, then it creates a problem to calculate the current. So always it is handy to take it as 1 kilo ohms. So anything divided by 1 kilo ohm, the voltage is say 10. So it will be 10 milliamperes. I don't bother about what is the actual magnitude of R. Just take it as 1 kilo ohms for practical setup. And this is not going to affect your circuit considerations. Clear? Now we'll try to understand the temperature effect. The temperature dependence of PN characteristics. 0.34 germanium. Find forward characteristic. This is called as reverse characteristics. What we are interested in is knowing the effect of temperature on both the forward characteristics as well as reverse characteristics. This is reverse and this is forward. Yeah. So we have the equation I equals to I naught e raised to V by n times Vt minus of 1. We will consider a silicon diode. If it is silicon, then say at 25 degrees Celsius. Okay, this is the experiment carried out at say 25 degrees Celsius. Then this, if I extend this line, I'm getting this value as 0.7 volt for silicon. Fine. So in case of forward bias, fine, the characteristics of silicon diode shifts to the left, fine, at a rate of 2.5 millivolts per degree change. Meaning, I'll just write the statement: forward bias condition. In case of forward bias, the characteristics of silicon diode, okay, shifts to the left at a rate of 2.5 millivolts per degree. Fine. Example, at 25 degrees Celsius, I'm having this diode voltage as 0.7 volt. Fine. Now for 100 degree Celsius rise in temperature. So this is the rise. So the total temperature is 125 degree Celsius. So in that case, it will be 100 degree rise and at a rate of 2.5 millivolts. So it is 0.25 volts. So therefore this VD will shift towards the left, towards the left. So it will be 0.7 minus 0.25. So it will be 0.35. Okay. So if I plot uh, at 100 degrees Celsius rise, existing temperature was 25 degrees Celsius. So it becomes 125 degrees Celsius. Rate is 2.5 millivolts per degree. So 100 is the rise into 2.5, that is 0.25. So from it will shift towards the left. So earlier it was zero point 0.7, zero point 0.7 minus 0.25. So it is 0.35. So I'm going to get this at 125 degrees Celsius, and this value will be 0.35. Okay. Similarly, for 100 degrees Celsius drop in signal, fine. So it is 25 minus of 100 degrees Celsius will be minus of 75 degree Celsius. So in this case, the new value will be 0.7 into 0.25. It is 0.95. Fine. So if I increase the temperature to 125 degrees Celsius, it will shift towards the right. Sorry, this is minus 75. Just make the change. Okay, minus 75 degrees Celsius. I'm going 100 degrees Celsius down. So 25 minus 100 degrees Celsius is minus 75. So at minus 75 degrees Celsius, the barrier potential increases to 0.95 volts. Fine. Now, what you can conclude from this? Okay, so this is minus 75 degrees Celsius, this is 25 degrees Celsius, and this is 125 degrees Celsius. So this is reverse bias, and here this is forward bias condition. So what you can conclude from this graph, as I increase the temperature, the breakover voltage reduces. So if a room temperature is say 25 degrees Celsius, and if I connect a diode at 25 degrees Celsius, okay, this diode will conduct only if the barrier potential of 0.7 volt is applied. Anything less than 0, meaning if the voltage is 0.25 here, applied voltage, this diode is not going to conduct. If it is 0.50, again this diode is not going to conduct. Why it is not going to conduct? Because it asks specifically for 0.7 voltage. It will conduct in this direction only when you overcome that barrier potential, meaning that depletion region, which forms at a no bias condition. Fine. So if I want to make this diode conduct at say 0.35 voltage, fine, then I have to operate it at a higher temperature. I mean, just for your understanding, more the temperature, less will be the barrier potential. Fine. So it will can easily overcome at 0.35 volts. So it will start conducting at 0.35 volt. So silicon diode, if it is operating at minus 75 degrees Celsius, then it will not start conducting unless and until you apply a voltage of 0.95 across its terminals. This is what we understand from this plot. Now we'll try to understand what exactly happens for reverse bias condition. Reverse biased condition. Now, in case of reverse bias condition, the reverse saturation current IS. So we write this I naught as IS, reverse saturation current. This IS doubles for every 10 degree Celsius rise in temperature. This is the all important definition here. The IS doubles for every 10 degree Celsius rise in temperature. Meaning At 25 degrees Celsius, fine, at 25 degrees Celsius, that is the room temperature, fine, if the current is 10 nanoamperes. Remember, the reverse current is always minimal. It is expressed in terms of nanoamperes. Here, the forward current is in terms of milliamperes. Fine. This is nanoamperes, very small value. Now, at 35 degrees Celsius, now if I compare 35 degrees Celsius, so IS is going to double for every 10 degree Celsius rise in temperature. From 25 degrees Celsius, I'm going to 35 degrees Celsius. So what will happen to this IS value? The reverse saturation current will double, 20 nanoamperes. Fine. If I increase the temperature to say 45 degrees Celsius, 45 degrees Celsius, then at 35 we had 20, additional 10% rise, so 45, it will be doubling. So it will double for every 10 degrees Celsius. So it will be 45 nano amperes. Fine. And if I follow this pattern, then at 125 degrees Celsius, at 55, it will be 90, and so on. So at 125 degrees Celsius, we are going to arrive at this value, 10.24 microamperes, which is a very big number. Fine. And for high temperature application, the IS is typically 10 picoamperes. This is just for your information. Fine. Now, there are 2 points here. One is the barrier potential and second one is the cut-in voltage. Barrier potential, VBI, okay, and there's something called as cut-in voltage. Cut-in voltage, and this is barrier. This is important to understand. Barrier potential. Now here, diode will start to conduct certain amount of current. Okay, after that, cut-in voltage is reached, then it will shoot up. This, if I extend the line, what I'm going to get a barrier potential. Fine. This VBI is a function of NA, ND, NI square, and so on. This we have derived. Fine. If time permits, I'll revise this again today. But then this cut-in voltage is a qualitative value. It's a qualitative value which cannot be fixed for a given diode. This VBI is fixed based upon the value of acceptor concentration, donor concentration, Ni square intrinsic value, and Kt by E. If you recollect, VBI is Kt by E natural log of Na Nd upon Ni square. This is the formula. So if I know these components Na, Nd, Ni square, I can calculate a VBI. So VBI is quantitative value which is fixed for a given samples. But then this is qualitative value, and that's the reason why you'll find different textbook will give a different value for this cut-in voltage, because it's a qualitative value. Fine. So I hope this is clear. Next, we'll take up one numerical. Germanium diode carries a current of 1 milliamperes. You can go through the problem. Fine. So the first thing, underline the numericals here, given values. So solution, given data, the forward bias voltage is 0.5, 0.15, sorry. So applied forward bias voltage is 0.15 volts. Forward current is equal to I, how much it is, 1 milliamperes. See, 1 milliampere in case of electronics is a very high current, fine, 1 milliamperes. And then we have I equals to I naught e raised to v by n. This is eta minus of 1. Now this eta is equal to 1 for germanium and eta equals to 2 for silicon. Now 1 is for large diffusion current and this is for the small diffusion current. Now the theoretical background for this eta value is that uh, this is for equating the equation I with the left hand side with the right hand side. Now that's the only reason we take this 1 and 2, fine, for equating it. So I equal to I naught e raised to v by eta product of vt minus of 1. What we are interested in finding the or estimating the reverse saturation current at room temperature. So if it is room temperature, our job becomes easier. Vt is what? Kt by E. In other words, it is E by K, and E is the charge on electron, K is the Boltzmann constant. So it is T by 11,600. It's specifically mentioned here at room temperature. So if it is room temperature, T has to be taken as 300 degree Kelvin. If I solve this, what I get is 26 millivolts. Fine. Or units have to be same, 0.06 volts. So I can write I naught equals to I by e raised to v by vt minus of 1. Since it is mentioned as germanium diode, I'm going to replace this eta equals to 1. Fine. So current is 1 into 10 to the power minus 3 divided by E. Applied voltage is 0.15. Fine. And this is where we have to express Vt in terms of voltage. It is 0.026 volts. Fine. Minus of 1. So if you solve this, you get the answer as 3.12 into 10 to the power minus 6 amperes. And in electronics, we have to always express the answer in terms of milliamperes, microamperes, nanoamperes, and so on. We have these units, fine. Don't express it in terms of 10 raised to power minus 7 or 10 to the power minus 8. You have to arrange the equation accordingly. Always express your answer in terms of milli and micro. This is what we are going to be using the next mod unit as well for transistor. We're going to express the current in terms of milliamperes. And sometimes the difference is expressed in terms of microamperes. So it is 3.12 microamperes. I hope this is clear to you all. Without wasting time, we go into the next problem. A silicon diode has a saturation current of 2.5 microamperes at 300 degree Kelvin. Find the forward voltage for a forward current of 10 milliamperes. Again, I'm going to keep the steps here. Always you have to write the given data. Okay, I'm skipping the step. I equals to I naught e raised to v by eta vt minus of 1. Let me substitute the values. I is how much? 10 milliamperes, the forward current. So 10 milliamperes. So write in terms of amperes. So 0.01 ampere equals to 2.5 into 10 to the power minus 6 e raised to v n vt minus of 1 e raised to v product of n vt equals to 0.01 divided by 2.5 into 10 to the power minus 6 plus 1 which equals to 4001. Fine. V by n vt equals to log of 4001. V equals to n times vt log of 4001. Here it is silicon, so the value of eta is 2. 2 into VT. VT, nothing has been mentioned about, oh yeah, it's mentioned here. The temperature is 300 degree Kelvin. So it is a room temperature. So I can directly take VT as 0.026 volt. See, units are in the same standard, amperes, voltage, and so on. Don't mix up the units. 0.026 volts into log to the base is 4001. And if you solve this, the answer what you get is 0.43 volt. So what it says, if a silicon diode is used in the circuit and it has a reverse saturation current of 2.5 microamperes and a forward current of 10 milliamperes, find the forward voltage. So forward voltage will be 0.43. So its barrier potential is 0.43 for this given problem statement. Next problem, find the reverse saturation current. So this is the given data. Solution. So let me write this as the given data as well. Okay. So if you recollect, we have the equation current density. Which is the equation we write J is equal to I naught by A. So this A and A gets cancelled, and what we get is DH, LH, ND plus DE, LE, NA. So this is the product term. E, the charge on electron, and Ni square. So if you substitute all these values, DH is 1.2 into 10 to the power minus 4. Just make it is minus 3 here. 10 to the power minus of 3 plus this thing. You just substitute, what we get is 1.2 into 10 to the power minus 3. LH is 3.5 into 10 to the power minus 4 into 10 to the power 21. ND plus 3.4 into 10 to the power minus 3. 7.1 into 10 to the power minus 4 into 10 to the power 22. Now look at here, ND and Na. What you can comment from this composition? The acceptor ion concentration is more. Fine. So it is a not just Pn but P plus N, because the composition, the concentration of Na is 10 times greater as compared to Nd. P plus N. 10 to the power 22 is 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19, and Ni square. Ni is how much? 1.6 into 10 to the power 16. Typically it is given as 1.5, so it is 2.25. So let us take it as 1.6 only. 1.6 into 10 to the power 16. So to the power 2 means 32. So if you solve this, what you get, the answer is 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 7 amperes. Now, as I told you, we don't have, we should not express our answer in terms of 10 to the power minus say 7 or 10 to the power minus 8 or this type of numbers, because we have to always express the current in terms of amperes, milliamperes, microamperes, and these are the special design units what we have fine in electronics. So if I want to express this in terms of microamperes, micro is what? 10 to the power minus 6. So the answer is 0. If I take this as micro, so this will shift, the decimal will shift towards the left, so it will be 0.16 microamperes. And this is the answer. Fine. Now, this is just a revision of what this actually we had derived in the lecture number 9, and also it was, the video has been uploaded as a lecture number 10 of 41 minutes somewhat on YouTube channel. There's another way to understand this particular concept. What it says is like a band structure of an open circuited PN junction. Okay, so first of all, we are just dealing with the PN junction. So we are going to have a P-type material and we're having N-type material. Fine. Next step, what we do is we combine the two, P and N. Then this is what is called as junction. So P N junction. Fine. Next, it's open circuited, meaning we are not applying any voltage. Even if I apply the voltage here, P is connected to positive, N is connected to negative, switch is open. So it is as good as I'm just having a PN junction, open circuited. If I close the circuit, okay, then it is the bias comes into picture. So when I open circuit, this will not, this voltage will not be affecting your PN junction. So open circuited meaning no bias. Bias meaning no voltage is applied. Band structure. Now we know in case of p-type material, we have the conduction band, we have the valence band. Again, in n-type material, we have the conduction band, we have the valence band. Now, in case of p-type material, the Fermi level is towards the valence band. In case of n-type, it is towards the conduction band. If I combine the two, then this Fermi level, the two Fermi levels should be aligned to each other. They have to be in a common line. If I do so, then there will be shifting of band, this n band down, and this will shift on top side. So naturally this has to come on. Now why it is so? Because the moment I combine the two, it will reach the equilibrium state. There will be a equal distribution of holes and electrons throughout that particular material. That is the meaning of it. So that is being represented by this straight line. See here. This is the Fermi level of a P region. Here I am having P region. This portion is the N region. When I combine the two, it will form a depletion region in the center, which is also called as space charge region. This is the depletion region. Okay. Now, when I combine the two, their Fermi levels has to be, see here. Consider that PN junction as p-type, n-type material includes physical contact at a junction on atomic scale. Hence, the energy band diagram of these two regions undergo a relative shift to equalize the Fermi level. To equalize, this is the most important. To equalize the Fermi level. That means the distribution will be even now. This number of holes and electron concentration will on par. So if I do so, then what will happen? I'll take this yellow line here. This is the EI, intrinsic Fermi level of intrinsic semiconductor, EI, which is right at the center of conduction band and the valence band. Okay, intrinsic level is always at the center of conduction band. And this is just a theoretical concept, a reference line. See here, the one. This is the reference right at the center of energy band gap. This is the energy band gap EG. So this part will be half of EG, and this again will be half of EG. Fine. The two portions. Similarly here, half EG and half EG. This is the EI value, EV, and if I combine the two, this has to be having a common line. Fine, because to equalize the relative shift. And now you can make out how much shift it has undergone. If I compare the two conduction band, this is the conduction band of the P region and this is the conduction band of the N region, lowest energy level. So it has undergone this much of a shift. Again, this is the topmost of the valence band and this is topmost of the valence band and the N region. So it has again undergone this much of a shift. And this shift is nothing but the built-in potential E naught. Meaning what? If the electrons wants to go from the conduction band of the N region to the conduction band of the P region, it has to overcome this barrier height. Understood? This is the barrier height. And here we are talking in terms of energy level, relative energy level. So if the electron has to move from the top of the conduction band to the conduction band of the P region, Fine. Then it has to overcome this much of energy. And we have calculated it to be 0.7 for silicon and zero point 0.3 for germanium. Fine. So just look at the figure. These are the terms. Eg is the energy band gap. Ei is the intrinsic Fermi level, and so on. So, in nutshell, when p-type and n-type semiconductors, if they are brought into intimate contact, a p-n junction is formed. Fine. Now, then this Fermi level must be constant throughout the specimen because it has undergone a even distribution. Fine. If it is not so, then what will happen is that the electrons on one side will have higher energy than the other side. So the transfer of energy from this high energy electrons to low energy electron will take place till this Fermi level, which is shown by a dash this line. Fine. Comes to the same level. But you can check out in case of p region or in case of n-type semiconductor, this EF is close to the conduction band and it is close to the valence band in case of p region. Fine. So if I want to get this conduction band age of the n-type semiconductor to the p-type semiconductor, then there has to be relative shift. Now this shift as shown as E naught. This is the energy shift E naught here. Now let us try to understand this notation. Another 7 minutes are left. We won't be able to complete this derivation. Eg is energy gap. Fine. So this is the intrinsic Fermi level. The reference E naught is the contact potential. It is related to the barrier potential. ECN here, this ECN is the conduction band energy level on n side. Conduction band energy level on n side. ECP here, conduction level energy on p side. Conduction level energy on p side. Similarly, we have this is EVN, valence band energy on. This is the topmost energy in the valence band. This we have discussed so many times. Right? Valence band energy on n side, and here this EVP. This EVP is the valence band energy level on the p side. Valence band energy on p side. So Eg by 2 is the center portion, right, of this energy Fermi gap.